let us learn an easy method to draw the gluteal lines. So here you can see the articulated pelvis, that is the two hip bones and the sacrum. So here is a left view and you can see the left outer aspect of the hip joint. So these are the bones of the hip joint. Above you can see the ilium. Behind and below you can see the ischium, and pubis is in front, which is hidden by the femur. So here is the acetabular fossa and the head of the femur, the greater trochanter, etc. Now, one more point you have to note is posteriorly you have the greater sciatic notch here. Okay, that's the greater sciatic notch here. All right. So, keeping this in mind, let us try to draw the lines. Now, here is the upper border of the ilium. There is a thickening known as the iliac crest. So, it runs from here. That's the thickening of the iliac crest. Here is the anterior end and here is his posterior end. Note this is in mind, anterior and posterior end of the iliac crest. Below, as I already mentioned, you have the greater sciatic notch. So these are the 2 points you have to keep in mind. Now, the anterior gluteal line runs from the anterior end of the iliac crest to the greater sciatic notch, while the posterior gluteal line runs from the posterior end of the iliac crest to the greater sciatic notch. And finally, the inferior gluteal line that runs just above the acetabular fossa. Yeah, you can see just above the acetabular fossa. Now, the importance of these lines are: behind the posterior line originates the gluteus maximus, which is the first extensor of the hip joint. So, it goes all the way like down, crossing the hip joint. So, obviously, a contraction will cause an extension of the hip joint. While the area between the anterior and posterior gluteal lines arises the gluteus medius, and the space between the anterior and inferior gluteal line arises the gluteus minimus. So this gluteus medius and minimus originates from this point and get inserted to the outer aspect of the greater trochanter. So once it contracts, it will cause abduction of the hip joint. Okay. And finally, this is the inferior gluteal line, below which arises the rectus femoris of the quadriceps femoris. Thank you.